Find the derivative of y equals 2 plus 5t over 1 minus 2t, the entire quantity raised to the third power. Then evaluate y prime of 0. Y here is the quotient of two different expressions, 2 plus 5t and 1 minus 2t. But then the entire thing is raised to the third power, and that means the third power is the outermost function, and therefore for the derivative, we're going to start with the power rule. There still will be a quotient rule, though, because we do have a quotient of functions. The derivative y prime, or dy dt, will start with bring the power down to the front, leave the inside alone exactly as you see it, subtract 1 from the power. But since the inside is not just a t, rather an entire expression, we have to now multiply by the derivative of the inside to complete the chain rule, and that's going to require a quotient rule because the inside is a quotient. So now we're taking a derivative of the inside, which will be the derivative of the numerator. Now keep in mind the inside is this right here, and the derivative of that numerator will be a 5 times the denominator left alone minus the numerator left alone, 2 plus 5t, times the derivative of the denominator, which is a negative 2. And then that entire thing is over the denominator squared. Now what we're going to do next is distribute this 5 here into the 1 minus 2t. And then this negative and negative 2, therefore a positive 2, we're going to distribute into the 2 plus 5t. We have a 3. And what I'm going to also do here is I'm going to break up the quantity squared into the numerator and denominator individually squared for that first fraction. That means the same thing as this. The reason I'm doing that is we have a denominator here that's going to match this here, and we can multiply those with each other by adding their exponents. It's just getting it ready to be able to do that. Now let's distribute the 5 in. 5 minus 10t. And then remember, I have a double negative here, a negative and a negative, so that's really a positive 2 that will distribute in there. So it'll be a plus 4 and a plus 10t. And all of this is divided by 1 minus 2t squared. Now this is why we had separated this, because now these can multiply together and add the exponents, so it'll be to the 4th power. But in the numerator here, we can combine like terms. Notice there's a negative 10t and there's a plus 10t, and those will cancel each other. So our y prime, or dy dt, is now 3. That's in the numerator. We have a 2 plus 5t squared. That's also in the numerator. We have what's left here, a 5 plus a 4. That's a 9. That's in the numerator. And in the denominator, we have a 1 minus 2t and a 1 minus 2t that can multiply. We add the exponents. They're both squared. 2 plus 2 becomes 4, so 1 minus 2t to the 4th. The last step, let's just multiply that 3 and that 9, and we can now write it as 27 times 2 plus 5t quantity squared divided by 1 minus 2t to the 4th. Now that we've found the derivative, our next step is to evaluate y prime of 0. Y prime of 0 means to plug a 0 in for each of the t's. So we will have 27 times 2 plus 5 times 0, quantity squared, over 1 minus 2 times 0, quantity to the 4th. So we have 27 times 2 plus 5 times 0 is just a 0, over 1, and a negative 2 times a 0 is just a 0. So we have 27 times 2 2 plus 0 is 2 squared. 1 minus 0 is a 1 to the fourth. In the numerator, 27 times 2 squared, which is a 4. In the denominator, 1 to the fourth is a 1. So we're left with 27 times 4, 108, divided by 1. Anything divided by 1 is itself, and we result in 108.